The idea that they're selling is simple: put Gaza under international control, bring in neutral security forces, remove Hamas from power, hold elections, and create a path to stability. But what they're proposing is not just unrealistic, it's dangerous, and it's been done before. Every time the West has attempted to engineer governance in highly radicalized or internally divided societies, it has failed. We've seen this again and again. The United States forced elections in Gaza previously, and Hamas won in a landslide. Then they carried out a violent coup against Fatah. In Lebanon, UNIFIL was supposed to disarm Hezbollah, with millions of US taxpayer dollars being poured into international force, but Hezbollah is now more powerful than the Lebanese army. Iraq, after the United States invasion, descended into sectarian war and eventually gave rise to ISIS. Libya collapsed into chaos and militia rule after the NATO intervention. Afghanistan received 20 years of Western nation building and fell back into Taliban control the moment the United States left. The lesson is consistent. When the West imposes its own models on societies that are deeply tribal, religiously motivated, and politically fractured, the project collapses and leaves a bigger crisis behind. Now, skeptics may look at West Germany or Japan after World War II as examples of successful foreign-guided transitions, but these cases are not remotely comparable to Gaza or the Arab world. Both countries were already coherent nation states. They had functioning civil infrastructure, they weren't divided by clan-based or sectarian factions, and most importantly, they were not ruled by a radical Islamic theocracy or exposed to transnational jihadist ideology. None of the conditions that made Germany and Japan successful are present in Gaza today. And this brings us to a central problem. There is no real evidence that this international plan could successfully remove Hamas from power or disarm them. Not one country involved in this plan has explained how they would physically disarm a terror army that has spent years building bunkers, weapon stockpiles, and underground cities. And history shows why these promises should not be believed. United Nations Resolution 1559 ordered Hezbollah to disarm. It never happened. United Nations Resolution 1701 reiterated it years later. Never happened. Hezbollah only grew stronger. There's no reason to believe that Gaza would be any different. In fact, this plan sends the exact opposite message. It tells Palestinians that October 7th, which was not about statehood, but about erasing Israel, has resulted in international pressure for a new political process. That signal rewards terrorism and teaches that extreme violence leads to political gains. It undermines the few remaining moderates in Palestinian society and further destroys the authority of the Palestinian Authority. And let's not ignore the core of the conflict: Palestinian rejectionism. Every major plan for peace or statehood since 1937 has been rejected by Palestinian leadership. And polling shows that a large majority of Palestinians celebrated October 7th attacks. This is not a society prepared for responsible governance or peaceful coexistence. It's a society radicalized through education, media, and religious incitement for generations. No international committee can undo that in a year, or even in a decade. If the West truly wants to help Palestinians, it must do what this plan refuses to address. It must support the slow development of responsible leadership. It must end the pay-for-slay payments. It must reform textbooks. It must hold leaders accountable for incitement in Arabic. And it must make all aid conditional on real political reform. It must shut down UNRWA, which has spent decades entrenching radicalization instead of resolving it. The only path to a lasting future is when two sovereign nations decide their future together of their own will. It can't be forced from the outside. Every attempt to do so has failed, and this plan will fail for the same reasons.